I'm breaking up. I can't do this anymore. This relationship is just too toxic and I can't do it anymore. I need to do this for myself. I'm so sorry. Don't you have anything to say? Are you just gonna keep on staring at me and being quiet? Hello beautiful minds! Welcome to my channel. I am Saika and today I'd like to share with you my history and relationship with food. So one of the biggest reasons why I was fat was due to my food intake. I wasn't really lazy. I loved walking, I loved swimming, I loved going out, and I also loved eating. So today I'd like to share with you guys how that went and basically what my relationship with food is like or was like before and what it is like now. So without further ado, let's get into it. So my early feeding habits were already quite bad. My mom was a big believer that chubbier kids are healthier kids. So we were always chubby, or we grew up fat. Our dad would used to say we were bombed with milk because she let us drink milk so much so we would get bigger and chubbier and again healthier and cuter in her eyes. But aside from that, what really established my relationship with food was how from a young age I was taught to think of it as one, a reward, and two, as a comfort. For the first, if we put Pavlov into the mix, I was conditioned to equate food as a reward, especially when I did something good or more so achieved something academically. I grew up always being expected to do well in school, and so if I did, my parents would always treat me with food. This being from my favorite fast food chain, Jollibee. And this would also become a Sunday ritual. Not only will I get my chicken and rice with large iced tea and sundae on Sundays, but also whenever I get a good or high grade. Obviously, I did my best not to disappoint. As for seeing food as a comfort, this stemmed from my tendencies to keep things in. As a child, I didn't really talk back to my parents because they wouldn't allow me to, and if I did, slap on the bum. And since my sisters at that time were all off to college and my parents were also busy with their business, I was just by myself in the house with my caretakers. But what was abundant in the house was food. So it became my escape whenever I felt extreme emotions and if I couldn't express them. In terms of what I was fed and what I continuously would love to eat, I could classify it into three sections. So we have mains and snacks, desserts, and drinks. Since I was a child, I was never really a big vegetable eater as how children usually are. And because my parents never forced me to eat my greens, I never ate my vegetables up until recently. Vegetables were definitely not a big part of my diet. Growing up, most of my food choices were fried, fatty, or canned. Namely, these are bacon, hot dog, chicken, fried chicken, any kind of meat like ribs and steak. And of course, my favorite and one of our local delicacies here, lechon. Crispy lechon. I especially love eating the skin part of it. Ugh. Of course, this was paired by mounds and mounds of rice 3 times a day. These were basically my mains. In terms of snacks, most of my snacks are packed. You know, it's all the cheesy stuff, the very highly processed stuff as well, and I would eat my snacks every 3 or 4 p.m. every single day. So again, very not healthy processed foods. This carried out to my options outside of the house as well. So when it came to restaurants, I was super choosy. I would only eat at fast food chains, or if not at fast food chains, those restaurants that had a lot of fat, that had a lot of meats, chicken, fries, you know, everything that's just full of fat and are just not good for me on the everyday. I was generally obsessed with that crunch, especially by eating the skin, and just that full feeling. Of course, given that my mains are more fatty and then my snacks are more sweet, salty, I definitely had to pair them with something sweet. And this is where our second group comes, the desserts, or I guess the sweets. I'm not big on cakes aside from cheesecakes, but I'm absolutely obsessed with chocolates and ice cream. I also really like cookies and brownies, but for most of my childhood, there's a lot of chocolate and ice cream involved. There was a time, and it carried out until my early teens, that our freezer would never run out of ice cream. And I mean gallons of it. I also really loved Dairy Queen Blizzards, the 12-ounce kind, and I would order it whenever I accomplished something well or generally just wanted to eat ice cream and whatnot. So that was like any other time. When it came to chocolate bars, my mom would always stock on Cadbury and Van Houten bars, so we would always have that at home. And I would eat so much of those, and I mean the whole bar. I was always a sweet tooth, and it's safe to say I had a lot of sugar cravings and just fed one after the other. Lastly, in terms of drinks, most of them were sugary as well. So there was a time I used to drink a lot of soft drinks every day since they were available in school. But that only lasted for a short time, I think a year, and then I quit because I found out that it was bad for your teeth, so I didn't drink soda every day, but I would drink it every week at least, or during parties or celebrations. Definitely drank a lot of soda. By the age I could drink coffee, I would drink lots of coffee, 2 to 3 cups a day, and I mean 3-in-1 coffee mixes. So again, very full of sugar. And of course, my favorite Frappuccino caramel ice blended drink that I drank all the freaking time. Whenever I wanted to chill, whenever I did something well, or whenever I'm highly stressed, drank that Frappuccino. And again, there was a time in my history that I drank it every day for a week. Very, very bad. Also, just to say, I do eat fruits, but I don't eat it as much, so I don't really count it as part of my diet because I ate it occasionally. It's not really an everyday part of my food intake. Just when I could remember, or just when my parents or my dad especially would say or comment that I should eat more fruits. Now knowing what my diet was like and how food was earlier established in my life, let's combine these two and see how they have both affected me. Obviously, my parents weren't the best in teaching us about nutrition, and I don't really blame them, especially knowing that my mom eats similarly to me. But I do hold them accountable for enabling me to eat the way that I used to eat, and that carried on up until my adulthood. Of course, I'm the one who should be majorly accountable, but they were part of enabling me at the start. I was also always taught to finish everything that I eat and to eat fast and clean off everything in my plate. So that didn't really help. And again, that would lead me to overeat because I wouldn't feel full, and it just fed into my overeating and my food addiction. Since I was also doing academically well, and that carried on from grade school up to college, I would always get my food rewards. And not just from my fast food chain, but as I grew up, it became restaurants, it became celebrations. It reached a point where I expected it rather than it was something that was just given to me whenever they could. It simply was an expectation on my part because at such a young age, I was trained that if I did something well, food was gonna be there to celebrate with me. And in connection, because as it is in life, we always feel different emotions every day, every week, and food was also my comfort, then I definitely ate exorbitant amounts of my meats, my sweets, because every other day I would be stressed or I would be, not really feeling the best of myself, so I would just eat it up. I would eat everything up. I ate a lot more when my emotions were high. That's usually during the end of the semester, so when the projects, the exams, everything has to be done, that's usually the time when I eat a lot. And you could see that because as I progressed, I'm usually fattest during my 3rd year or 4th year in high school or in college. So that's usually the time I eat the most to cope with the stress, with my emotions, with my anxieties and all that. But more so, once my family started noticing my weight gain, I also ate more and more. And also from my own insecurities, going in high school and seeing, bodily issues, comparing myself to other people, to other girls, that also made me eat more and more. So my insecurities also fed my food addiction and definitely contributed to how I saw food as a comfort and how my relationship turned out to be. Like I said in my previous videos, there were times that I would overeat a lot, like in high school when I ate an 11-inch pizza by myself, or when in college I drank my favorite frappuccino every single day with a triple-decker cheesecake every single day just because it was project week and I was in denial. I kept on saying that, oh, it's because I'm stressed, I'm eating so much. I used that as an excuse, and basically since I was a kid I already had bad eating habits, and it just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed until I couldn't control my eating anymore. Instead of it just being a reward and a comfort, it sort of became what dictated my happiness as well as my emotions, and it also contributed to that sense of fullness that I would feel every time I stuffed myself with sweets, with fat, with everything that's processed junk, basically. I would say looking back that I probably had a BED or a binge eating disorder. I was never diagnosed, I've never had myself checked out, but just checking the symptoms I could find online, I could relate to a lot of them, especially when it comes to how I saw food, my relationship with it, and how uncontrollable it would be sometimes. There were some points I couldn't fully relate to, but for the most part, I would say I did have a binge eating disorder. Eating literally gave me that momentary high. Throughout the years, it just became harder and harder to control myself. And I also had this mentality that there would be no other time to eat the kind of food that's being served to me. My mentality became, eat everything on your plate. You never know when you'll taste this again. And then I would just immediately crave for it and just finish and annihilate everything on my plate. Even though I was completely stuffed, I would eat it and I would still eat desserts after. So there was always cake, there was always chocolate, cookies, brownies, anything I could find in the fridge. And if not, I would order, call, and have it delivered. It was really that severe. So I also had a sugar addiction aside from my food addiction, and it just snowballed and fed into each other because the more I ate sugar and fat, the more I craved sugar and fat. So it really was a vicious cycle. And it obviously manifested itself through my rapid weight gain. Knowing what I know now, food had really become an addiction, and it became something that even to an extent dictated my happiness and my mental and emotional disposition. That's why up until now, I'm still struggling with my relationship with food, because it's like undoing everything that I've learned and that I knew from the start, and it's already like akin to breathing, or it's like a part of my second nature, and to undo that is very challenging and very hard. And there was a point that I did try to diet before and I failed, and I just went back into my old ways, and it's always scarier to know that you failed once and you don't want to fail again. So now I'm doing things slowly and I'm doing things at my own pace when it comes to my diet and the changes I need to apply. And these are the things that I've been doing to try to repair my relationship with food. So first, I do intermittent fasting. So I'm not advocating for it, but it just simply works for me. So I used to skip breakfast a lot, so intermittent fasting is easier for me to do. So I only eat from 11 to 7 p.m. And that basically just helps me lessen my calorie intake so that I could effectively lose weight. Second, I plan my meals. Meal prepping is so important, you guys. It's a lifesaver. In the beginning, I was very strict, so I don't calorie count because I'm honestly super lazy to calorie count. But I do plan what meals or what foods I put into my body. At the start, I followed it to a T. I was super strict. I banned myself from soft drinks, which was actually easier to do. I also banned myself from chocolates and the sugary sweets that I used to love very much. And the lockdown actually really helped because we only bought essentials, and it compelled me not to go out, not to buy things that weren't important. And honestly, these things weren't important. So I was more disciplined and more primed to stick to my diet. And also because I had a plan and I had a guide, so I could prepare myself and internalize that these are the things I could only eat, and this was for my betterment in the long term. And then once I started to gain control, so this happened in months, okay, months apart, that was the time I was more open to trying out different foods, to incorporate a bit of sweets. It's fine. I don't believe in restricting myself in any kind of food groups. You can eat everything, but again, everything in moderation. So I don't restrict and slowly incorporated my sweets, but bit by bit, so I don't get hooked up and addicted again. And also because from experience, restricting usually backfires for me. That's why I don't restrict myself. In relation to having more balance in my diet, I do try a lot of things now, so I'm more open to trying foods. When it comes to vegetables, I really want to incorporate vegetables into my diet because I haven't been eating my vegetables since I was a child. So the trick I did, I would put it into the foods that I liked so that it would mask like the taste or the texture. And then once I could get more used to it, eat it by itself. And for now, my favorite vegetables are spinach in all its forms, broccoli, cabbage, and also carrots I really like as well. So those are only a few. You know, I'm trying my best to take it one step at a time. I also don't want to overwhelm myself because that usually would heighten up my anxiety. So I'm just taking it slow and taking it at my own pace. And to also add more variety, I'm trying different ways of preparing my food. So in terms of the vegetables, how do we prepare it that will make it more palatable to me? In terms of the foods that I like my chicken, my meats, and and my fishes, how should I prepare them so they'll be more healthier, or they'll have less oil, or they'll have less fat? So usually it's baking rather than frying. So just experimenting on prepping my food. In line with that, I'm also now more proactive in terms of being a part of the kitchen. So I'm really trying to cook and bake because I want to be more in control of my food, and therefore it would be best if I'm the one creating what I'm eating so that I also know what ingredients are there, and basically also learning how to do kitchen work. I haven't been really going out. There aren't really a lot of cravings to go out and eat out as compared to before, so I'm really happy with that as well. And I saved a lot of money, so that's also really good. How I view my food nowadays has also changed. I don't see food as something to satisfy my cravings, but I see it as fuel and as something that will boost my energy levels every day. And another non-scale victory I noticed was that I could eat my DQ 12-ounce ice cream by half. I would put it in the fridge, I would leave it for dinner or whatever, and I honestly forgot about it. I forgot about it after a day or two. I didn't even crave for the ice cream. I just wanted a taste. That was it. I was done. I could control myself instead of before that I had to finish everything, even though I technically didn't have to, but I felt like I had to finish it. Now I can say stop, I can say no, I can think about my cravings and say, do you really need it, or are you just craving it? Are you really hungry, or do you just need water? Are you just emotionally drained, or are you really supposed to eat this? I can really think about it before actually eating. And I actually eat now and eat mindfully. I chew more slowly, I feel my food, and when I'm full, I stop. I don't force myself to finish everything on my plate. And I consider that a victory, a small victory of sorts, and I'm still trying to improve every day, but we're getting there. In terms of cravings, it's also getting rarer and rarer, especially because I'm eating less processed sugars, and I'm eating more fruits, more vegetables, more fish, meat, and other things, just to keep it balanced and just to keep it light and not totally full. How I manage my emotions now are more by analyzing and really confronting the issues. And although sometimes I do give in, I don't give in all the time. And again, I also don't believe in being too harsh on myself and again over restricting, so it's fine. In terms of rewarding myself, instead of going to food, I go to my other hobbies that I know are good for me, like reading, listening to music, just anything that soothes my soul or makes me proud of myself and makes me just chill in general. If I need to deal with extreme emotions, like when I'm angry or something, I take a walk or I release it when I exercise. Basically just not food. Repairing my relationship with food is still a work in progress. It's not perfect every day and it's definitely a struggle, especially when there's something going on in my life. Again, old habits die hard and I still do give in sometimes, but whenever I fall back, I always try to do better tomorrow. My view on food has definitely changed, and now I see it as something that fuels me and gives me energy instead of being the controller of my life. I am the controller of my own life. I make the choices of what I consume, and it's on me if I fall back or move forward. I'm still far from perfecting my diet. I still need to work on a lot of things, and I'm so excited to try different foods and experiment and the like, and I'm just excited to see where I'll be next year or the year after that, or how I'll progress in my food and diet journey, as well as how my relationship of food will eventually morph and shift into. At the end of the day, I just really want to establish a good and stable relationship with food and see it for what it is, as something that will nourish my body and give me extra power to do everyday activities and to live my life. Everybody's food journey is different, and this is just mine. There's still a lot of work to do, but it's work I'm willing to do if it will last for a lifetime. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much guys for watching. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do comment it down below. What has been your food journey like? I want to hear your stories and let's start a conversation. Thank you so much guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Babush!